we have some really important teachers here with us. All of you, each of you are an elementary school teacher, which is like, I know, I've seen so many memes on social media about how valuable teachers are right now. Like, people are recognizing your value more than ever because parents, and all of you are parents, and you're all having to do this role of homeschooling also yourself right now. And so you're teaching and working at the same time. I even have someone I talked to earlier today whose baby is 9 months old, and their daycare teacher is even sending like videos to do like with activities. Like, that is so kind and so thorough and sweet. So I don't know if she has to do it or not, but that's kind of what I wanted to talk with you guys about. Like, you have had so many changes. First, let's make a little introduction. So my name is Jessica Bledsoe. I am a licensed clinical social worker, and I'm the executive director of We Care Ministries, which is a nonprofit that works with families, works with children, youth, everyone in the gamut. And we are passionate about providing mental health care for those who need it. So we make it affordable and we make it accessible. And we're also Christian-based. And so I actually know all of you from our Christian connections. A couple of you go to church with me now, and Brooke, we went to college together. And so thanks for being here. So I have Stacia. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you teach, and who is home with you right now?
Okay, so my name is Stacia Pittard, and I teach kindergarten. This is my 15th year, but my first year at virtual school. And I have a 7-year-old Jackson who is homeschooling with me now, and my husband and our little kitten. So we're all one happy family here at the house every day. So it's been an adjustment, but it's working.
Mm-hmm. I'm Brooke. I live in South Florida, so Fort Lauderdale. I am a kindergarten teacher at Christ Church School. It's a little private school, and I have 16 little kindergartners. So I'm seeing them every day on Zoom, and I am at home with my dog Rory right now, and my husband Sean, and Connor, who is 22 months. So we are very active, and we don't stop all day.
My name is Nadia Armsworth, and I teach at Treeline Elementary School, but now virtually, and I teach 1,100 students music. So it's a lot of kids, and I wish they were all 100% involved, but sadly they are not, and that's okay. My 2 children are downstairs enjoying a movie and snacks, and given explicit instructions, they will help each other and wait for a whole hour. They are 5 and 7, so they kind of are a little more independent, maybe a little too independent sometimes.
Yeah. Now, Nadia, tell me, where are you meeting from right now?
So I'm actually in my master bedroom closet, and I've put a bed sheet up and covered up my clothes so I get better sound and
awesome.
Lots of privacy. It's the studio.
Yeah. Brooke, where are you talking from?
I am in our living room. I'm using one of Connor's like toy chests as my desk, and so
I see the counter behind you. Yeah.
Yes, there's our kitchen little counter. Here's Rory.
You're on the floor.
Basically, I chose this view because I can see everything else. So if Connor's down and around here, unless he goes in the kitchen, I know what he's up to. So,
mm-hmm. Yeah. And then Stacia, it looks like you are like queen of your domain right now.
Yeah, so I'm at the dining room table. I kind of set up my office here, and this is where Jackson and I do our schoolwork, and it's pretty much covered, and then at dinner we'll clear it off and then pile it back on with school stuff again.
So when I saw, before we started this recording, Jackson was kind of hanging around, and I said, Jackson, are you doing school with your mom? He goes, yeah, and I don't like it.
Yeah, he's not a fan of his new teacher right now.
Oh, no. But I bet a lot of kids are feeling that way. They don't like the way that school is.
Yeah, and they really miss the teacher that they've had. So.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little more about that. What kind of changes have there been? Because I'm going to do another call with like high school teachers, and maybe some students as well. But for elementary, like this is an age where children they really thrive by being socially connected with one another. And so to not have that's a big part of their lives that's missing right now. So what kind of changes are you seeing? Well, first off, walk me through how you're doing school. Let's go through that, because I think you're all doing something very different. So Stacia, why don't we start with you? How are you doing your class now?
So mostly it's on Google Classrooms, and none of my students or their parents or myself have ever been on Google Classrooms before. So this was a 1 week training all in before we, got started. So that was a big adjustment for everyone. I felt like I can put tech support on my resume now, because I feel good about getting something accomplished that I didn't have to talk to the tech guy about. So Google Classrooms is the big thing, where we just post assignments on there and they do their work through that. Once a week I do a Zoom meeting, but I don't teach there. It's just a time that we can get together and say hi to each other. And I usually try to have like a theme each week so that it's something fun. So like today we did a scavenger hunt and played Would I Rather. We've done like a bedtime Zoom before, and just to see each other. That's kind of all that's been.
So Nadia, how are you doing school now?
So it was a discussion with my principal a lot about how much I need to be involved in the Zooming process, if I can use that as a word, I guess, Zooming.
Why not?
Right. And with 1,100 students as our student body at Treeline, I said, that's a lot of kids. I'm not sure I could pop into every Zoom call, nor could I probably host big, huge Zoom meetings. So we actually opted not to do them. And that was a decision we did as a special area teachers at Treeline. Instead, we're entirely based out of the Google Classroom. And for me, I've even left the comments option turned off in my Google Classroom. I just strictly put out content, and then ask for feedback in their private notes, where they can give me private messages back and forth so I can address issues up with each student individually. And it's out of 1,100 kids, I probably have about 600 or so that have actually logged in to my classrooms. And then honestly, out of the 600, probably a solid 90 to 100 are actively engaged in using it. But that was also a decision we talked about as a team, that we weren't going to press students into, hey, you have to do this, because it's such a huge change. It was overnight. Honestly, for some families, this change happened overnight. So we were having some compassion, and our goal as a special area team, the art teacher, the STEM teacher, and myself, we said, okay, well, let's teach with joy in mind. Let's teach with, empathy, and just being kind, and doing activities that we could get the kids involved in with the materials that they might have on hand, as opposed to some sort of weird esoteric thing that we would maybe do in our classroom, So it was a little bit more with compassion in mind, as opposed to forcing an issue, because we didn't really feel like that was fair. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Yeah, no, that's so unique. And I want to hear a little more about the difference between like what is required and expected for each student. And so you kind of touched on that a little bit, but I know that's been something that has also had to change. So Brooke, what about you? How are you doing school now?
So we actually, with our private school, we had our spring break, and it started that Friday, the March 13th. So we were basically getting ready to leave, and our principal had a little meeting with us saying, this is what we will do, and send home stuff if you feel like you should. So we sent a few things home, but just not really thinking it would turn into all of this. But we had gone on our vacations and everything, and then slowly but surely the emails started pouring in from administration about what we were going to do, and of this distance learning now, this like term that's now very common. So we started with just posting lesson plans and giving parents access to different online resources and everything, and just asking them for maybe 2 or 3 assignments a week just to make sure that they are participating. And then probably about 2 or 3 weeks in, we were able to conference, like Zoom conference with all the families, and see the kids and kind of go over just, you know, what our plan was. So currently, being in a private school, we have live Zoom meetings with all the kids. So our school is 2-year-olds to 5th grade. And with kindergarten, with kindergarten, I have 9 o'clock to 10:30 every day with my 5 and 6-year-olds. And then, and it depends on the grade level. So the 2-year-olds have like 30-minute just time with their teachers to play, and they, you know, do a mini calendar and go over shapes and stuff. And, you know, the 5th graders do different things. And so it kind of just depends on the grade level, but say hi. But we've been really trying to keep, you know, the schedule as far as close to normal. As close to normal as possible. You know, we do journal and math and reading and all of that, and we'll break it down. You know, every Wednesday we do something silly, like today was pajamas and stuffed animal day, and so we have a lot of different things that we're trying to motivate for the students, you know, to kind of, you know, get in the spirit of the Zoom, but at the same time, it's definitely a challenge.
So how do you guys think the kids are doing? And you can just, whoever wants to go can go.
I personally think that it's a real challenge. Treeline is a Title I, well, I should say it's a former Title I school. We lost our Title I status a couple years back, and so we still have about 70% poverty. And I know of one teacher specifically that I had a conversation with, and she has 7 kids, and she's not 7 kids. She has one student who has 7 siblings, and the grandmother didn't make arrangements for multiple Chromebooks. So they're sharing a single or possibly 2 Chromebooks, and they're struggling because she's got these kids on a schedule of when they can actually access their Chromebooks. And this, the child that's in this teacher's class, she teaches 2nd grade, the 2nd grader, he's getting his Chromebook time at like 7:30 to 9 o'clock at night. So, I mean, not only is that not helpful to him, it's probably not a long enough window to complete an activity, but I also know that he is not probably going to log into the music classroom or the STEM classroom or the PE classroom, and except maybe once in this entire time that we've been online. And I don't, you know, hold him accountable in that way. I just, you know, thank you for going online and choosing to look at my stuff. Great. And the same thing, that teacher is more concerned, like, okay, well, nuts and bolts of it is get some math done and get some reading done. And if that's all you get done, we're going to call that a win. Yeah.
And Stacia and Brooke, like keeping kindergartners on a call for a long, Brooke, you said an hour and a half. Stacia, how long are your Zoom calls?
Less than 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Because they just want to do kind of a show and tell, and so that's why I started all these games and things, so that way we had some kind of focus, because I had, you know, everybody was showing their pets and their rooms and their 2 new toys, and you know, with all the connections and kids getting muted, and you know, we couldn't understand anybody anyway, so we tried to just do short and sweet each week.
Yeah. So how do you think they're doing with that? Do you think that, I mean, at this age, the big things developmentally for them to do is really like play, sorry about that, and interact with each other. So you're facilitating that, like you're allowing that to continue, which is awesome.
Yeah, I have some kids who like have been on every call because they want to see their friends so bad. I have other kids who they're not shy in the classroom, but they're shy on video. So they want to be on, but they don't want to talk. And then I have other kids who they've got on and then they see their friends and they have to get off because it makes them so sad. And so when that happens, I talk with the mom and like, we'll do a one-on-one call so we can talk, you know, to each other. But yeah, it's different for everyone, you know? So just trying to accommodate all the kids' needs.
Yeah. Brooke, what are you seeing? How are the kids doing? How are your kids doing? Especially with the hour and a half every day.
So we do a pretty good job of breaking it up. I actually let the kids, we have the little waiting room in the Zoom call, right? And so I usually, I turn my video and my microphone off for about 5 to 10 minutes before we actually start. And, you know, I monitor their conversations and stuff, but a lot of them do need that social time of just saying, hey, and like, what are you eating for breakfast? It's like my little breakfast club friends. And so they kind of get that time to chat and hang out. And then I come on and, you know, we have our journal time and we'll do a brain break. We have scavenger hunts, like she was saying. And I think I've seen everyone's pet, everyone's favorite stuffed animal. We've seen each other's rooms. I mean, you get the whole house tour, and siblings come on too. But I think that sense of community is there, and that's really what a lot of them are, you know, needing right now. I mean, everyone's been doing the birthday parades and, you know, sending letters to each other. We've done flat teachers. I think it's just all of those things that make them feel like we're still together, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And Nadia, you brought up a good point about some, like, not everyone being able to just have access to some of the things we take for granted, especially before this, but even the tools that are necessary in order to do the hard work of school. But you also mentioned how you've had to use the resources around you for different activities. And I think we're all doing that. What's it been like having to blend like professional and personal? Because I think we're all doing that. Like Stacia, you're at your dining room table. Brooke, you were just showing us your whole house basically. Like your students' whole house is a little more personal than you would normally get with students. They're going to remember you for sure. This is a year that will not be forgotten. So what do you want to share about that? How are you doing with that? Having to have this big bleed of, you know, everything's just kind of going together, professional and personal is kind of grouped together now.
I'll be honest, I actually have had a hard time with that because I tend to be pretty private at my house, and I don't, it sounds rude, but I'm an introvert naturally, and so I want my home to be my own little cocoon, and I tend not to want to invite folks over a little bit because it's also embarrassingly messy, but but also maybe that's a little bit why I chose to use my own big master closet and cover it up when I need it to be covered up, because I kind of like that idea that the kids know me as the music teacher and this is now her space. And, you know, I don't know why. It's like, I guess, Wizard of Oz, like, in that sense, what's behind the curtain? I had one student ask me if I was in a blanket fort, and of course the answer is yes. So.
I love it. That's awesome. Stacia, what about you? What about this professional and personal? And you have Jackson there, like right at your table too, that you're helping and.
Right. So I felt like when we first kind of started all this, I mean, I got really good at school by walking out the door and not bringing anything with me and being at home and being with my family. And now having the computer here and hearing that email ding, I feel in the beginning, I felt like I had to run and answer the email right away because I knew that there were some parents who couldn't get to work on the school things until later on in the evening, and I didn't want them to be left out when they're trying to figure all this out. But now that we've gotten better at it all, I try to close the computer by 5:30, so that way we can do other things and go for a drive or whatever we need to do for dinner. But yeah,
I would
Jake's
completely
right
agree.
next to me, and we do work together, and when he can do something on his own, then I can get to my work. And then we had spring break. We left for spring break, and then we never came back. So once I knew that that was happening for Jackson and we set kind of a schedule, and we've done that since it started. So he wakes up in the morning and he does whatever he wants to do, and 9 o'clock school starts, and we work for about an hour and a half or so, and he gets a 10-minute break, and then the goal is to be done by noon for him. So that way he can kind of have a goal to reach, and then he can go on with his day, whatever he wants to do.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The better focus for him too. So
yeah, I love that, how you have like a definite, like 5 o'clock, 5:30, like that's okay, I still need this boundary. Like that's so important to have. Yeah. Brooke, what about you? How has do you get anything done? First question with the 22-month-old.
Yeah, no. So my husband Sean and I, we've found a pretty good schedule as far as because he's working remote now too. And so he takes Connor for the most time when I am in the Zoom meetings, unless he has a call, and then we kind of tag team it a little bit. But I've kind of set the tone with the parents early on, and just, explaining to them that we're all in this together and that we all have to have that flexibility for each other. So not only am I being flexible for you and your family and trying to answer your emails, whenever I can, and seeing, all of your siblings and your pets and everything, I have a family too, and this is kind of our situation and our background. So, but I mean, the kids have really enjoyed, to be honest, they've enjoyed seeing Connor. And, in the beginning when we didn't have Zoom, I was recording all my lessons and Sean was helping me too. And so we did a lesson on fractions, and Rory had treats. And so he had, I took a treat and we broke it into fourths. And so Rory was part of that. So I think they really liked seeing, a little bit more of my family too. So I guess that was, exciting to them. So it hasn't been too difficult, but at the same time, it's definitely an adjustment, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. So, and you brought up flexibility for parents. Tell me more about how things have been with parents. Like, what have your experiences been? And it's so interesting to talk to you about this, because the follow-up I want to have is, you are parents. And so I know that there could be, I don't know if you personally have had any mean emails from parents. I'm curious to hear that. But you are also having to as well. So I'm curious to hear from you three about your experience with all that, because it's unique, because you understand both sides of this. So Nadia, how about you go first? Tell me a little bit about this for you.
I think as responding to parents has been okay, because I've made it so that I pre-record all of my lessons, and I do it all in Google Class, or on a Google slide. And I usually don't do more than about 20 slides. And each slide I have a recording of myself giving the directions on the slide, because I found that the kids need that guidance. They need me to say, here, this is what this slide is all about, and this is the next step, please do this. And then they either do it or they don't do it. And that's honestly, I can tell most of the questions are usually like, how do I open the slide? And so that's been fairly easy for me to respond to. But then on the flip side of that coin, as being the parent, I've been overwhelmed with the work. And I wish I could have my family on a schedule like Stacia's family. I just totally wish that. But Jeff, my husband, is a teacher as well, and he's set his schedule, his middle school schedule, to be in the morning for his math students. And so he's taken that earlier slot, and we discussed it. And I said, well, if he takes the earlier slot, then I would do school with Genevieve, my daughter. And then we didn't realize that my son's daycare, the VPK program, had a Google Classroom going on as well. So we actually missed several weeks of their Google Classroom. not realizing that that was happening because somehow we got missed in the communication. And then I contacted them saying, you know, would they just do a quick Zoom meeting so my son could see his teacher at least? And then she said, oh no, you should already be involved in all of these different things. So then all of a sudden I had 2 Google Classrooms to keep track of and try to get my kids on board with. And I had several weeks of my son getting like free reign of the house. And that actually was terrible because he was getting into things, and suddenly scissors and glue and paper everywhere and Lego explosions. And I had to kind of let go of the fact that creativity required mess. And it was okay that there was a mess, and my intense need for things to be cleaned up, picked up, put away just needed to be put on hold, and be okay with that. And that life is messy when you live together in a house all the time and you don't have a break from each other. And that, and also keeping my kids motivated to continue on with just reading, you know, just getting the reading done and just getting the next step done and trying to get my daughter on track. And to be honest, she's behind. And a little bit of that is, I know how long it takes me to make my recordings. I usually put on the makeup and get myself dressed up and sort of plan for a filming day to be about 8 hours. If I'm going to film a lesson, it takes me a good solid 8 hours to get it done and edited, and where I'm satisfied with it. And I get very positive feedback on that from my students. But all week, I'm also putting it in, you know, sort of setting up the framework of what it is that I want to teach in terms of content. What can I find supply-wise that the kids can do and create music on their own at home that's accessible, that everybody would, I'm like, everybody's got a tin can that they had, a can of beans, and everybody has spoons. I mean, like, you can create so much music with these 2 things. So just happens to be on my desk. But right, don't go anywhere without tin can and beans and spoons. And but balancing it all, that's been my struggle. And then being kind to my husband when I would like him to just jump in and do more, and try to anticipate what the next step is, and not turning into teacher of my husband, if you know what I mean. Suddenly, like, I sometimes feel like he relies on me to just tell him what the next step is, and how do you respectfully do that without sounding condescending or mean, or just saying, you know, I really could just use your help with guiding our daughter and doing the next step in her homework and being thorough and making sure she has actually done all the steps. So yeah, it's a balanced struggle for us at our house. And I thrive under a schedule, but I'm not very good at setting a schedule. So I always kind of depend on other people to set a schedule, and I fit what I need to fit into what their schedule is. That's how I operate best.
Well, and I know you are not the only person that does that. So we have school, right? Like, school is a set schedule for you, and it's kind of given to you, and you like show up and you know what's next. And so, yeah, you're all having to take that used to be a reality and an environment and adapt it. And it's so unique to hear. Well, it's so cool to hear how unique each of you are adapting that. And yes, it is definitely a balancing act. It's also interesting, Nadia, I'm going to pick on you a little bit, that you have all these, from what I'm hearing from teachers is, like, I have students who haven't logged on, or, you know, I haven't heard from these kids. Like, there are some kids that teachers just haven't heard from, and that you are a teacher and you didn't know about Nathan's school. So that makes it a little humbling, like, oh man, there are things that are just getting lost, and we have a little more grace with like ourselves and with other people.
Yes.
We're all having to manage and juggle so much now that it's a little, you can be more kind, and that is more helpful in these scenarios, right?
When I was very first teaching 16 years ago, I had some lady come up to me and she said, you don't have children of your own because you don't have any empathy towards parents. And I thought, I'm brand new. How would I have empathy towards you? You're right. I don't know how to do that. You're right. I don't have children of my own. And now I think back to that conversation, and man, I really, in the situation that it was, I felt like a total jerk. And I now know why, because I really didn't. I didn't have a comprehension of it. And now I'm 7 years into my oldest child, and all of the changes that happen, even from birth to day 5, there's huge changes that happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's huge empathy. And, you know, the folks at the daycare were so happy that Nathan was able to just do a handful of the things, and we're thrilled that he was participating a little. So yeah, lots of
thanks
empathy.
for sharing all that, because I know that people who watch this, hopefully they're going to be able to relate to that.
Yeah.
As far as just the emails and stuff and parents, honestly, we've gotten really good feedback. I think at first, it just shook everyone so much, and like, this is our new reality, and I can't just drop my child off at school and know that they're learning. And I think a lot of the responsibility just naturally fell on the parents, and I think it was a lot, and I think it was a lot for everyone. And we are all making the best of the situation that we have right now, and I think that the parents, you know, are starting to see that all of this work, you know, the teachers, we don't just kind of throw stuff at their children. You know, we're with their children, and we love their children from, I don't know, I'm just going to say 8 o'clock till about 2:30. You know, we have those 7 to 8 hours a day with your child, and we love on them, we nurture them, and help them learn and grow. And it's hard to do that from, you know, through a screen right now. And but I do think that the hours of work with the recordings and bedtime stories and scavenger hunts and you know, sending the mail, all those little things I feel like are really warming their hearts and showing that compassion and that joy that they really need right now. And so, like I said, the feedback that we've really gotten from families, although they feel overwhelmed and frustrated, I think that they are getting a new appreciation for schools and all of the hard work that, you know, goes into lesson plans and managing, you know, the communications and all of that. So I think it's something that we've definitely grown from.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Stacia, have you had any issues with parents and kids? Has there been any growing points for you?
So in the beginning, I felt like, now it's calmed down, but in the beginning, especially with the parents who were still having to go to work and then trying to figure out what to do with their child because they're too old to be in preschool and too young to be left alone, things like that, they were pretty overwhelmed with. And I told them, I said, you know, I'm new at this too. So if there's something that we can change, let me know. Because I was sending out like an assignment each day, so that way they didn't get overwhelmed. Well, then a couple parents were like, you know, we can't get to this until Wednesday. You know, it would be nice if you could just have all of it there. So I've done it now where I have each assignment each day, but it all starts on Monday. So if they want to get it all done on Monday, they can, or if they want to do it daily, like a routine, they can do that too. But I think our, something I wanted to add was, I think our school district's done a really good job with getting everything prepared. I think it was nice that we had a spring break week to kind of get ready for that, but they have what they are calling grading with grace. And they are allowing, you know, the parents and the teachers to have some flexibility and to realize that not everybody has the resources or the time that everyone else has. So they've, you know, not only do we have Google Classrooms, but you can go and pick up a packet for 2 weeks. If you don't want to get online, you can do that. But they've got a lot of hotspots available, and they ordered a lot of more Chromebooks for all the kids to have. So I don't know, I think the district's done a really good job with getting all that materials as fast as they could. But
that's awesome. How can the community, or just anyone who's watching, the church even, how can we like be a support for you as you finish up the school year?
I guess just I think it feels feels good when you get an email from a parent just to say thank you, that I know that you're working hard too, and just to get some kind of communication that's saying, thank you, or saying a prayer or something like that, that means a lot.
Awesome. So words of encouragement, it sounds like. Nadia,
I would
would you
agree
agree?
with that. Yeah, I would agree with that. The words of encouragement are always, welcome both ways, and know that, we're equally trying to be kind and thoughtful. We're not trying to be jerks and overwhelm anybody. That's not at all our goal, because we know we have a lot of families who are truly in crisis. Either a family member is truly sick with COVID, or families lost their homes, or they're without means of travel to get from one place to another because they lost their ability, or they don't have enough food. Food scarcity is a real issue. And so I suppose the support could be in, how, if this was a 70-year-old person who's looking to support the school system, not necessarily with their physical help, because we don't want them to get sick, but maybe perhaps some gift cards towards the school that's nearby, that they'd be willing to say, hey, if there's a family that needs some food, here's some Publix gift cards. Or if they want to put their feet to the ground, so to speak, and do something for their community, that would be very helpful. Especially because I know in Treeline, we could identify easily 100 families that have great need.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great point. So gift cards would be a good tool to give parents that are needing some extra support, especially with food. Brooke, how do you think support would be beneficial right now? What does that look like?
I think I'm going to second what Stacia said, and Nadia too. I think that, I teach in a pretty well-off district, so maybe not necessarily finances towards our school, but the other schools that may be in a lower income community would probably be beneficial. And then, of course, I'm that cheesy teacher that doesn't, get so excited about the gift cards, but more so in those physical gifts. But the notes and those sweet little emails with the kind words, honestly, they completely melt my heart. And so those little words of encouragement, even if it's just a short and sweet little sentence, I mean, that's something that really goes a long way for us. And so that's kind of, I guess, a way that I really enjoy that kind of support that the parents could give.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for talking with me tonight. I know we are almost at our time to close our laptops for the day. So I appreciate your vulnerability and your honesty, and just kind of filling us in with how things are going. I have thought about each of you individually, like, I wonder how they're doing school. How do you teach kindergartners? And then when Brooke told me she does an hour and a half, I was like, how? So you guys are doing, it's not new that you're doing the meaningful and the hard and the necessary, but you're continuing to do that, and your adaptability is also very inspiring. So thanks for continuing to minister to our kiddos.
Thanks for doing this. Yeah, this was great.